This summer, when I returned back to Slovenia, I went to visit my grandmother, and we sat down with my auntie and my mother and my grandmother. And it's the first time that I asked them who I was as a child, how I was as a child. They replied to me almost synchronically that I was a very curious child, that I was keep on asking how and why. I think this is still a big part of my character. I also remember that I was drawing a lot. I used a lot of old papers that my mom brought from the office. When I was like 4 years old, my auntie bought me a first set of color pencils, and I think that was the best gift ever. I grew up in a small town in the north of Slovenia. And I spent most of my childhood at my grandma's farm. As I remember, we weren't really much exposed to art. We did have a gallery in the town nearby, but my family never took me there. So it was only in high school when I started to discover galleries and see exhibitions and so on. I went to high school for fashion design. That was that time the closest to my idea of being an artist one day. Of course, in the primary school, I didn't understand, or I didn't knew that being an artist or being a professional artist or a painter could possibly be a career. And after the high school, I decided to apply for Academy of Fine Art, where I was studying painting, and where I spent the last year of university at the International Graphic Center, where I was first introduced to screen printing. And screen printing later became a big part of my art practice. After university, I traveled to Ghana. That was back in 2010, just as a tourist. And in 2013, I moved to Lake Busuntwi. Lake Busuntwi is a beautiful lake in the central Ghana, made by meteorite impact. I lived in a small village called Tjaša, where there was about 400 people in the village. I very quickly became a part of my community, though I was one of the rare foreigners ever lived there. My fellow villagers soon started to play a big role in my art practice. For about 2 years, I haven't held a brush. I had this artist withdrawal till the day that I decided to invite a girl that was very close to me to sit for me for an hour to paint her. And that's where it all began. But that particular day, I remember when she sat on that old chair, and I remember the light coming through the upper side of the studio on her face. And I remember how her skin has turned to something in between a yellow, purple, and indigo blue. And that's where I think I really start to feel that I felt inspired. It was first time for me also to paint a dark skin. And that particular day I realized that the skin has so much shades when it's interacting with the light. And I think that was something that made me keep on going and inviting more and more people to my studio to paint them. In 2016 I moved to Accra, so I left my life in the village and I moved to the capital of Ghana. That period in Accra was followed by more complex paintings. That's where I have started for the first time after long to paint on the canvases. At Lake Visconti, I was mainly painting on a butcher paper, on a simple paper, simple material I could find around Kumasi. While in Accra, I could find a second-hand cloth and stretch them over the stretcher. There is also a shop where I could buy my basic supply. I remembered my first paintings in Accra, that I painted them back in 2016-17, which was a series of work called Technologic, where I started to use completely new material in my works, like a recycled material, and I still combine it with acrylic paint and with screen print. My subject have slightly changed, so I started to put a lot of attention to differences between very wealthy or rich people and the people I found or met them on the street. So I think these economical differences between the people really got my attention, and I tried to kind of put them on the canvas. I prefer to paint the woman body. It kind of inspires me. I think the posture, the shape of the body, and I also have noticed that a lot of Ghanaian women are very fearless, proud, and I think therefore very beautiful. My models usually don't fit the traditional standard of a beauty. With my models, it's very much about the persona, about the woman and the power behind that woman. I have rented my first studio in Accra late 2017. It's actually kind of a shop from the outside, but inside I changed it to a very cozy place to work. A few years after, I rented the room next door, and last year, in the middle of pandemic, I rented the last place that I turned it to community space where other artists, so the local artists, can exhibit their artworks. For me as an artist, it's also very important to be part of an art scene and to engage with the space and the culture and people I paint. As a portrait artist or figurative artist, for me it's important to engage and be in connection with the person I paint. Moving to Accra has shifted a bit of my narrative of working, but at the same time I have started to meet new people and let them be part of my life and know them.